The moment Judge Jenkins began reading the list of my assets, the entire courtroom seemed to freeze. For 3 hours, I'd kept my eyes down, barely glancing at the man who used to be my husband. But as the judge's voice echoed through the wood-paneled room, I finally looked up. Derek Rivers, once the picture of a polished, successful sales director, stood at the defendant's table, looking like he'd just seen a ghost. His mouth hung open, his eyes wide and glassy, sweat glistening on his forehead. The judge's words cut through the silence. A luxury condo in downtown Atlanta, a suburban home with a sprawling acre of land, a commercial property on Peachtree Street. Each line was another blow, and Derek looked as if he'd been struck by something heavy and invisible. But the real explosion came from Patricia Rivers, my ex-mother-in-law who shot up from the benches, her face red with outrage. "This is a mistake. She can't own anything," she shrieked, her voice slicing through the tension. The judge didn't even flinch, just peered over her glasses and demanded order. Patricia's fury fizzled into angry whispers, but her eyes burned with contempt, trying to set me alight from across the room. In that moment, I felt a strange, icy calm settle over me. I remembered the first time I met Patricia, years ago, when she'd welcomed me with a smile that was more assessment than affection. Back then I was the quiet, sensible girl from a modest background, safe, unthreatening, and easy to overlook. How quickly things had changed. Now as the judge continued reading, the truth was finally out. The woman they'd dismissed as a nobody was about to turn their world upside down. And this was only the beginning. It's almost surreal to think back to the days when my life looked picture perfect. From the outside, Derek and I were the couple everyone envied. He, the rising star in a major construction firm, and me, the steady, reliable accountant. We rented a sleek apartment close to his job, spent weekends at his parents' grand home, and played our roles flawlessly. Patricia, my mother-in-law, was always polite, but her compliments felt more like evaluations. "Good stock," she'd say, eyeing my thrift store skirt and the tiny apartment I'd inherited from my grandmother. I told myself her scrutiny was just a mother's way of protecting her son. But deep down, I knew I was being measured and found lacking. Still, I tried to fit in. I smiled through the family dinners, listened to Patricia's endless advice, and convinced myself that happiness was just a matter of time. Even Peter, my father-in-law, seemed to tiptoe around his wife's sharp opinions, quietly supporting her every decision. For a while it worked. We made plans, talked about the future, and built a routine that felt almost normal. But beneath the surface, cracks were already forming, cracks that no one wanted to see. The illusion shattered the moment I became pregnant. At first, the news brought a wave of joy. Patricia, usually so composed, actually teared up at the thought of a grandchild. Derek fussed over me, buying every vitamin and booking the best prenatal care in Atlanta. For a brief moment, it felt like we were truly a family. But that happiness was fragile, and it didn't take long for reality to break through. What happened next would change everything. Before Derek, my life was already marked by loss. 5 years earlier, a car accident had left me with a fractured spine and a shattered heart. My fiancé was gone in an instant, and the pain of that day never truly faded. I retreated into myself, burying my grief in the monotony of hospital, accounting in the quiet solitude of a one-bedroom apartment. I became invisible, moving through life with a kind of numb resignation, convinced that happiness was something reserved for other people. That's when Derek appeared, almost out of nowhere, during a grueling rehab stint in Sedona. He was everything I wasn't, confident, charming, and full of energy. He swept into my world like a summer storm, breaking through my defenses with expensive flowers and grand gestures. I was vulnerable, still raw from my past, and I mistook his intensity for love. Within months, we were engaged, and I let myself believe that maybe, just maybe, I could have a second chance at a normal life. But the truth is, I never really knew the man I married. Derek was a master at playing the part of the devoted partner, but there was always a distance in his eyes, a calculation behind every smile. I ignored the warning signs, desperate for stability, for a family, for something to fill the emptiness left by tragedy. Looking back, I see how easy it was for him to step into the role of savior, and how easy it was for me to let him. But the foundation we built was already cracked, and it wouldn't take much to bring the whole illusion crashing down. And when the first real test came, everything I thought I'd rebuilt was put to the ultimate test. The day we learned I was pregnant, it felt like a miracle, a chance to finally move forward, to build something new out of all the broken pieces. Derek was ecstatic, and even Patricia, who usually kept her emotions locked away, let a tear slip as she imagined her first grandchild. For a brief, shining moment, it seemed like the universe was giving us a fresh start. But happiness, I would soon learn, can be heartbreakingly fragile. It all changed during a routine ultrasound. Dr. Evans, the obstetrician, hovered over the monitor, her brow furrowing as she pointed out a thickened fold on the image. "There's a statistical possibility of a chromosomal anomaly," she said gently, her words hanging in the air like a storm cloud. The next 2 weeks were a blur of blood tests, genetic counseling, and sleepless nights. Derek, once so attentive, grew distant, spending his evenings lost in the flicker of the television. Patricia, instead of offering comfort, only lamented, "Why are we being punished? There's never been illness in our family." When the final diagnosis came, Down syndrome, it felt like the ground had opened beneath me. The geneticist spoke softly, outlining my options. But I didn't need time to decide. I already loved the tiny life growing inside me, and nothing, not fear, not pressure, not even the threat of losing my marriage, could change that. "I'm having the baby," I said, my voice steady and unyielding. But the real storm broke when we told Derek's parents. Patricia's reaction was explosive, her words cruel and unforgettable. She demanded I get rid of it, called my unborn child a burden, a mistake. Derek, silent and weak, offered no defense. That night, as I lay awake, I realized I was truly alone. But I also knew, with absolute certainty, that I would fight for my child, no matter what it cost me. And what happened next would reveal just how deep the cracks in our family truly ran. After that night, the walls closed in. Derek moved into the guest room, his presence in our home reduced to a shadow. He stopped coming to doctor's appointments, stopped asking about the baby, and started coming home later and later, sometimes not at all. Patricia's calls became a weekly ritual of thinly veiled threats and fake concern. "Have you come to your senses yet, Sarah? It's not too late to fix this mistake." But I hadn't come to my senses, at least not in the way she wanted. I was determined to bring my daughter into the world, no matter how much they tried to break me. When Maya was born, she was tiny and fragile. But the moment the nurse placed her on my chest, I felt a surge of love so fierce it burned away every doubt. Derek visited the hospital only once, standing over the bassinet for a few seconds before muttering, "Well, now you're satisfied, aren't you?" He left without touching her, without even looking at me. That was the moment I knew the marriage was over, even if the paperwork hadn't caught up yet. The first year was a blur of exhaustion and endless appointments. Maya needed constant therapy and stimulation, and I couldn't bear the thought of leaving her with anyone, especially not Derek's family, who refused to even acknowledge her existence. Patricia's cruelty only grew sharper. "Don't bring that creature here. It raises my blood pressure." My own parents were gone, and the friends I'd once leaned on had drifted away in the wake of my old grief. I was truly alone, cut off from every support system I'd ever known. Derek's neglect became absolute. He gave me money, but always with a sneer, always with a reminder that Maya would never be normal. He started drinking more, disappearing for days at a time. The isolation was crushing, but it also forced me to find a new kind of strength, a quiet, stubborn resilience that would become my greatest weapon. And just when I thought I had nothing left, a single overheard conversation would change the course of my life forever. That cold, bright courtroom was already fading into memory as I stepped outside into the crisp October air for the first time in years. I felt a real sense of freedom settle over me, a weight lifting, a new chapter beginning. Maya met me at the door, her little arms wrapping around my neck, her smile washing away every trace of tension. In that moment, I realized the real victory wasn't just in the court's decision, it was in reclaiming my life. That first night in our new condo, Maya was overjoyed, running from room to room. counting her toys and declaring, "My room, Mama!" Watching her, I knew every hardship, every lonely night had led to this. Our life was finally our own. No more toxic in-laws, no more judgment, no more pretending. I blocked Derek's calls, ignored Patricia's messages, and focused on building a world where Maya would only know love, respect, and support. As my business grew and new opportunities appeared, I realized life wasn't just moving on. It was blossoming in ways I'd never imagined. Now, when I watch Maya sleep, her peaceful face glowing in the soft light, I remind myself never let anyone else define your worth. You can rebuild from nothing, one small victory at a time. Every day is a new beginning. If my story touched you, please give this video a like. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. And if you want to hear more stories like this, subscribe to the channel so you never miss an update. This is our story, a mother, a daughter, and a new life. Remember, true peace doesn't come from revenge, but from freedom and self-respect.